potential friends and adventurers. I'm Em, and today we are going to talk about how to dramatically increase feeling of player choice in your world. Welcome to the DM table. Firstly, to know why I'm recommending these methods is because I feel that they would work. I think that they would work even on me, even though I know about them, even though I use them. That's why I think that they would work, because they feel good in use from player perspective. So let's start from meaningful micro choices. Now, what are those? For example, if you have, after your player has done something, after the adventurers have saved the day or something, say that you have two children to welcome them to the village, each inviting them to their own house first. Now, you may think this is really simple, but think how it works. You have already planned everything, but the only thing that changes is the order. The player will visit both houses eventually, most likely, and you don't need to really do much. You do present a choice though, but yes, it sounds sort of simple, but think about it like this. Now you present, if done well, the player with the opportunity to console both children and show them they're both equally important here, that the player will equally visit both houses. There's many dialogue choices that can stem from even this simple dilemma, because no option here is better than the other necessarily, and yet we have stakes. And therefore it turns into a bigger choice than it previously was, even for such a simple one. Now, it might be too subtle for some players, but this is just to demonstrate how you can make these meaningful micro choices, because they're not supposed to be like in usual game design. They're not supposed to be completely false choices where the player just clicks on the yes or no, but it ends the same, and so on and so forth. Here you can implement happenings stemming from small variations into larger ones from at least player standpoint. That's even before we get into really complexer implications of their choices, right? So following along with this, we have many more possibilities where talking to people that players have close contact with gives more opportunity for choices. After all, when people ask players something, something with depth, now it's on the player to give a meaningful answer. And this creates quite a big player choice. So if the player has some friend or somebody that they have a relationship with, that they talk to outside of party, that they walk around with, that they visit, that they consult with, and then they're posed with choices, both moral, philosophical, everyday life choices. When they're presented with that on every corner, then player will feel like it's a big deal what they say, what they do, what they think, because the world asks about this. The world wants to know. Now it's up to player to provide this, and then whenever the opportunity strikes, this can be a quest hook, like it usually would have been. But in all the other times, it's also something that deepens the world, and the players don't know ahead of time which ones will be quest hooks and which ones won't. So you'll have that, and then there will be more choices during the quests as well. We can have large impact for minimal differences. If players, say, runs into the situation where they can support one store or another in a town between two merchants that are both different yet similar and have similar stores but different intentions, and so on and so forth. Well, anytime you present people with equivalent choices that have far-reaching potential implications, people give into their imagination and start eventually rooting for a side. And once they do, well, they already have created more scenarios in their head than you even did for them. So now, whichever store gets supported, your little bit of planning on what happens next when one store grows and another store gets closed down potentially. Well, that all has life all of its own in players' mind. They think that they have made a large change on the whole town. They have improved quality of the goods. They have gotten rid of the imposter. They have completely changed who owns the store and who doesn't, who was right and who was wrong. Even if they don't think that they were the judges of this, but they do feel like they have done their part to change the town, and now it is a permanent change. And yet you simply expected for one or the other merchant to fill out this role, or both to stay the same as at the beginning of the quest. There was no really as great of a need as players have assumed. And yet the more players assumed that there was a big change, the more of a big change it was. Even then, you want to further stimulate with choices. You want to sort of, like with the talk with a close friend that I mentioned at the beginning, you want to stimulate with offered choices here and there, where the player didn't even ask, so that you give player the opportunity to have more presence, more choice in situations that they didn't even expect that they would be called up to act in. And this really makes it all interactive, much more so than before. And as you can see, players will feel like they're asked at all times what is their path, what do they choose, what is going to happen. And what we were saving up for is that outcomes can actually be complex. If choice was not entirely false, then we can have a complex outcome that was colored by the choice, and so something can loop back and forth and create quite a situation that seems to be coming from player decision completely. For example, the store example, well, something can happen with the store that was chosen to be supported. And this would seemingly be really player-driven questline, even though it was pre-planned, even though it looks almost incredible that it's dynamically placed. It was pre-planned and pre-made, and you had it all figured out ahead of time and can plan for much complexer quests that follow along with a bunch of player choices. And this all within the limitations of video game design. Imagine how much more you can do at tabletop or somewhere else where you have more room to act. But even in video game design, there is incredibly lots that can be done with this sort of thing that was rarely, if ever, done before. And then, well, then your players feel like they have choices at every turn, and that they can follow along their path, and as long as they can roleplay what they wanted to roleplay, that's all good and fine. They get to play how they like. Well, adventure, if you thought this was unique, I hope you can spare me a click so I can see you here maybe next or even every week. And I wish you luck on your adventures, and to see you again. Bye.